Today I had this fantastic sensation in this incredible studio. I could play any music and feel me in a landscape from where it comes. It's amazing, and that's for me very emotional. When I play a piece from Buenos Aires, I'm in that city. Or when I play the mountain music of the Andes region, I'm there, you know? One day I was playing in the Vondelpark in Amsterdam with my squeeze box. There's one guy listening and he says, "Listen, I'm Argentine. Do you know the soul of my city, Buenos Aires, the bandoneon?" I said, "I'm already looking for 4 years for a bandoneon, but I cannot find it." He said, "No worries, I go to Buenos Aires in a couple of months. I will take a bandoneon for you from Buenos Aires." And he brought me a beautiful instrument, but also 20 records of the different tango orchestras from Argentina. Astor Piazzolla, Osvaldo Pugliese, Horacio Salgan, Aníbal Troilo. So I started writing, transcribing all these records, putting the needle back and forth. And that's the way I learned bandoneon, with the records. And when I started in 1984 playing this, I thought it was a really exotic name for an Argentine instrument, el bandoneon. But it proved to be a German instrument called after Mr. Heinrich Band from Krefeld in the Ruhrgebiet. The most important guy who fabricated these bandoneons was the builder of this one, Alfred Arnold. There were German immigrants who went to seek their fortune in Argentina. And at that time, tango music was coming up. They discovered this instrument as the excellent voice for their tangos. When the bandoneon culture in Germany was at its peak, you had like 80,000 people in the major cities in Germany playing bandoneon. But a lot of them were workers, communists, Jews. So what happened when the Nazi time came, this instrument was banned. The people were sent to concentration camps. Shiploads for Buenos Aires were destructed with axes. It was the Ausradierung der Bandoneon. So in fact, the instrument vanished from Germany. And only because of the immigration it survived. So in the 80s, the great Astor Piazzolla and after him many Argentine tango orchestras visited Europe, and everybody discovered the tango dancing, the tango singing and the instrumental music. So Piazzolla reintroduced the bandoneon in Europe. And the instruments I played were in fact fabricated in around 1920 in Germany, but made for Argentina. Thus they spent most of their life in Argentina, and since the 80s, they're almost back home, you could say. The bandoneon is like a squeeze box. So they used to play. They played push-pulling like a squeezebox player. But then they decided to make the instrument chromatic. So it's bisonor, but it's chromatic. So they have these two inner rows, the diatonic rows, and then they made chromatic notes, ook the half notes. Completely different from accordion. The accordion gets its name because it has on the left-hand side of the instrument bass notes and chord buttons. But the bandoneon player is like a piano player. So you can make not only all chords, but also all positions, like a C chord. But you could pick it like this. You can do anything a piano player does. And then it has, of course, this beautiful sound, this warm sound like a harmonium on the left side. And on the right side, you have a different, much stronger sound. They say more like clarinet or hobo, and this is more like the cello. So the polyphonic things you can do are amazing. One of the most important arrangers for solo bandoneon was Maximo Mori. He had like these crazy things using the different timbres of the instrument, like. So all bandoneon players, they were trained to play Bach, like in their education. And of course, the foremost composer of Argentine tango, who studied really hard classical music, was Astor Piazzolla, who grew up in his youth in New York, where he was trained by a pupil of Rachmaninoff, a piano player who taught him to play Bach on bandoneon. He was also influenced by jazz, of course, but when Astor came to Buenos Aires, when he was 18, he directly played in the most popular tango orchestra of Aníbal Troilo and became their arranger. But at the same time, he studied, already when he was 18, with Alberto Ginastera, the most important composer of classical music in Argentina. And participating to a competition of composers, Astor won first prize in a competition to study in Paris. And he decided to study with Nadia Boulanger. And she had a major influence on the mind of Piazzolla, because by that time he regarded tango music as a kind of culture which didn't develop itself, just like folk music, like a culture with dancers and people and taking alcohol, and it was like a blues of Buenos Aires. And he wanted to get away from that. He wanted to be a classical composer. But it was Nadia Boulanger who said, all the things you write for me technically are fine, string quartets, even a symphony he wrote, but I don't feel a soul. Who was the real Piazzolla before he came to me? And then he got really a color on his face, he blushed and he said, well, I have to admit I was a tango player and I played bandoneon. But Boulanger said, mais j'adore le tango. That's beautiful music. So play me a piece which you composed before you came to me. And then he played for her Triomphal, and after a few bars she grabbed his hands and said, this is the real Piazzolla and you should never abandon him. So Piazzolla returned to tango, combining classical music, jazz and tango in his new music, which he called Tango Nuevo. I cannot find so many young people willing to dedicate all their time to fall in love with an instrument and practice and practice and practice, which has the beautiful consequence that you not only put your soul in it, but also you learn a language with which you communicate with other guys of your generation and with older generations also. So I really hope that we musicians can pass this on. Like Piazzolla and Pugliese passed on their music in my bandoneon, and when I'm playing, I see them before me, and that's really yeah, for me very emotional. When I play a piece from Buenos Aires, I'm in that city. Or when I play the mountain music of the Andes region, I'm there, you know? And that I really hope to be able to pass on. And today I had this fantastic sensation in this incredible studio. I could play any music and feel me in a landscape from where it comes. It's amazing. The surround system in this studio and the way the camera is approaching the music, I think it's, for me, feeling like I'm in heaven. Like Piazzolla said, con el cielo en las manos, with the heaven in the hands.
And we go to the hall. Now, that's the second theme. We are late. Follow my instructions, please, with the timing. We have a minute left. And let's go across to 8 o'clock. Into the hall, but just across the hall. That's fine. And you have about half a minute left. So we do a slalom. Yeah, and we finish on the right with a crane. The last phrase is coming, which will be about 15 seconds. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Okay, he cuts it.